Let's start here with Adam Hodge, Bloomberg politics contributor, Democratic strategist, and managing partner at Bully Pulpit International. Republican strategist Maura Gillespie is back with us today, I'm happy to say. Blue Stack Strategies founder. It's great to see you both. And I guess I wonder, for you, Maura, is that enough to override the benefits politically of this immigration policy? Look no further than the aforementioned Joe Rogan. Maura, listen to what he said on the program following the fatal shooting in Minneapolis.
It's complicated, obviously, but it's also very ugly. To watch someone shoot a U.S. citizen, especially a woman, in the face. You can also see the point of view of the people that say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to? So it's more complicated than I think people want to admit.
That was an interview with Rand Paul, Maura, and it was over 3 hours long. If you're inside the political mechanism inside the White House, how are you reading that on the midterm trail?
Well, one, I got to say, well done to Rand Paul. 3-hour interview. I mean, I love talking to you, Joe, but that's a long time to chat with anyone.
I'd never do that to you.
So, thank you. Well, I think that aside, the point that is being drawn here by Joe Rogan is the fear of it, right? I do think that you pointed out that Republican voters really gave a referendum on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's policies at the border and wanted more security, wanted to make their communities feel safer. I think the question of Republican voters who elected Donald Trump, do you feel safer because a mother of 3 was shot in the face by an ICE officer? Do you feel safer because teenagers who are working at a Target are being dragged out by 20 ICE officers and then come to find out he's a U.S. citizen despite him telling them that? Do you feel safer because of these smashing in windows and trolling your streets looking for anyone that doesn't look like a Stephen Miller? That's a real problem, and that's not America. And so, yes, I think these protests are saying absolutely not, and this is not okay with us, and we're going to speak up and speak out about it. And Republican members of Congress should be paying attention because, by and large, this is not what people voted for. And Joe Rogan is speaking to the fact that people are not okay and comfortable with it, but a lot of people are afraid to say so. And I hope that more people who are Republican voters, instead of feeling ashamed that you voted for Donald Trump, speak up and say what you're not okay with in terms of policy decisions like this.
Well, trying to put limitations on immigration enforcement agencies in this DHS funding bill. Will they make a deal with Republicans?
I think given the public's reaction to seeing these ICE raids, they very well may. I do think that Republicans in Congress are going to be careful in how much they limit the federal government in terms of national security and our protection here at home. Because, again, their voters did say they wanted to have safer communities and safer cities, especially. And so I think it's going to come down to the details. I know it's a very D.C. legislative wonky kind of answer, but it really does come down to the details and how it's written and how it's designated. So I'll be looking for that. But I do think there is an opportunity here. And I would hope to see some compromise because that's what we elect members of Congress to do, is to come together and find a solution, not just stay in their corner. So here's hoping that happens on this.
To the Republican argument, that creates an opportunity that, quite frankly, didn't exist 3 to 4 months ago.
Yeah, right. Wow. A lot of stars, though, would need to align here, Maura. Are Democrats getting a little far out over their skis?
Well, and I think, Adam does point out the fact that there is this, Donald Trump factor that has been pretty central to the Democrats' strategy for the better part of a decade. But how far will that really take them? I think that we saw in Virginia, New Jersey's gubernatorials this fall that instead of it really being about the candidates themselves, it was more about a referendum on Donald Trump as a president and the job that he was doing. So people voted for Democrats simply to not vote for anyone who was supporting Donald Trump. Now, if candidates like Murkowski and people across the country who are running for Senate, who are up for re-election, can separate themselves from President Trump, does that give them an advantage? It may. They just need to be sure to drive out the voters because I think that Democrats struggle still on affordability because, yes, they can harp on that message and they're right to do so. But they also were in charge of the government, in charge of, what our economy was looking like just 4 years ago and didn't have an answer for it.